Hello, I'm Kevin Young from Moonlight Mantids, and today we're doing another Q&A, and we've had a lot of these build up for a while, and I just want to get to them. Thanks for all the comments in the YouTube section. If you would like, you can add your questions to it, and I will turn them into a video as soon as I can. So let's just get right into it. There's quite a few here. Like I said, they've been building up for a while, and I'm sorry it's taken so long. We had a comment with a list of questions, actually. Hi, I just watched most of your videos last night. Thanks for taking the time and sharing your knowledge. I'll be visiting your site, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. I have a few questions. One, can you feed mantises raw meat like hamburger? I have read on a forum that works, but would appreciate your input. I have seen people feed mantids like weird raw actual meats, as well as banana. Of course, honey, which is a very popular other non-insect type treat, and I've seen people get mantis to do this. I guess if they eat it, you can do it. I wouldn't really recommend it because you're playing with raw meat, and if you're going to be handling your insects, and if your insects have been handling raw meat, and you're gonna, feed them beef, which I mean I've heard of that too. People do that. I doubt they do it from the nymph on, but if you want to raise your mantids with raw beef or chicken or bananas or whatever you do, if they eat it and they don't seem to die or whatever, great, fine, it's interesting, but I don't think that's a really reliable food source. That the amount of time it would take just to try to get your mantis to grab onto it, and I'm assuming these are adults or sub-adults, and I don't really think it's the best idea. If you manage to pull it off and that's something you're interested in doing, it seems that people have had success, but I wouldn't do it. It's just easier to culture a lot of insects, and they're moving and they're alive. That's why the mantises catch them all on their own. And so if you have like one and you want to play around and do that, that's probably fine. I haven't done that and I don't really have time, so. That's my input. Light schedule. I saw in one of your earlier videos you said it's important that they maintain a day and dark light period. What is the minimum light? Like 20 hours on, 4 hours off, 11 hours on, or 13 hours off? Are these too extreme? What would be it's a photo period, which you're sort of recreating your diurnal, nocturnal cycles, which I would say, yeah, it's probably a pretty good idea. I keep my stuff pretty close to like a window, not where they're getting like heat or extreme exposure. I do turn my lights off at night, so just regular day and night cycles you'd have in your home is usually fine. What I've found is if you're incubating and you're using a heat lamp or light source, so long as the room temperature isn't too low, like it's not cold outside or cold wherever it is when you're not keeping that heat light on. When you're incubating, it's really important to give the youth a break. Let them come back down during the nighttime for a few hours, and then turning them back on again, of course, in the morning sometime, and letting them heat back up, which it would happen naturally. You can leave them at a higher temperature when incubating consistently. But naturally, it's warmer during the day. You want, room temperature, decent temperatures for incubating certain youth at night. And you're giving the youth, a regular sort of incubation period. It's more natural, and I've had a little more success with that. And that's where that's more important. For the mantids, too, when it comes to keeping them at a certain temperature, make sure you're within the guidelines of that species, though. If they're really arid, you're really not going to want to cool them down. But there will be natural, brighter times of the day and darker times. If you're in any area where there's windows and activity in your home, you're naturally going to get that anyway. As far as setting up actual lighting, I guess it depends on the species, but it's not really that crucial. They don't need a light on all night long, and you definitely, in some cases, you don't want to keep heat on them constantly, especially not your youth. When you're incubating, you can do that with the more arid species when you're incubating, but it's important to give your mantids a break. So if you're using heating elements, sometimes it's okay to sort of ease off at night and then bring temperatures back up during the day. That's the more natural thing to do, and I've had more success that way. But maintaining a pretty constant temperature is probably the most important thing. So if things are always room temp, your mantids are going to do just fine. Yeah, and that's pretty much with most species that don't require a lot of extra work. But the natural photo periods and activity levels in your home is the best photo period you can have. So I wouldn't concern myself too much with setting up a time light type schedule. It's not that important. Whatever you're doing naturally is just fine. Anyway, Wang Jamie said on YouTube comments, he said, "Hi, thanks for sharing. I got a ghost mantis Utheca, but I have no experience to hatching it. Could you please tell me about the humidity to hatch them? That would be greatly appreciated." You want to keep your ghost mantis Uth room temperature. I've had them hatch without any problems at all, no extra heat. To be honest with you, not a lot extras required, but you can if you want to be a little more concise in how you're incubating Uth, and that would require you know, keeping humidity levels at about 50% is what I find best for the really slender, like a Creo, Ghost, spiny flower type Uth. Since they don't have as much insulationing as say you know, giant African mantids or you know, your griffins or anything like that. They have a more insulationing around the Uth, so the humidity can be a bit lower. But you want about 40 to 50%, maybe 60. Just as long as you know you're keeping things well ventilated on top of that. So a cloth lid's okay, but if you see if it's too humid, you're gonna get fungus to grow right on the Uth, and that's a really bad sign that can kill the Uth. So when that happens, you need more ventilation and less humidity. The best thing I'd say is just mist it lightly every day or every other day, or you know, morning and night, very lightly if you wanted to. They're not too hard to hatch. You should have success even if you don't really know what you're doing. Most of the time you can leave them relatively unincubate, you know, no extra heat, not too much extra humidity. You want to mist them at least, and that's all you really need to do. But you know, some moist moss at the bottom is what I use, some sphagnum moss, just slightly damp, and as long as it stays very slightly damp, and I just throw it up on a shelf, and they hatch just fine, about 72 to 76 degrees. At the, you know, at a good medium sort of, you know, regular sort of warm temperature. Don't throw them on a windowsill in the sun. That's can be a bad idea if it's too hot. Just they don't require too much extra. Just as long as you lightly mist them, they should be fine. Can I send you a pic of my Mantis gastrica mantises? I think they might all be males. I'm not sure. Please help. You can always send me a picture of your mantises. If they're, you can tell the sex pretty easily. I just need a bottom abdominal shot. Don't send them to me if I can't see the segments on the abdomen. They need to be clear. You don't have to have a real fancy camera, or you can even use your phone. Just make sure that you can see it in the picture, otherwise don't bother sending it to me because I won't be able to see it. But I will sex any mantids you want, anytime. I can help you a little bit with identification too, depending on what you're sending me. So anytime you want, just you can email me and I will help you with that. No problem. Mark from YouTube said, suppose you want to breed the blue bottleflies so you don't have to keep buying them. You suggest that people should only keep buying the pupae and use as needed. I don't only suggest anything. The blue bottlefly pupae are a great stable source of food for, you know, subs and pre-subs and adults. Flying insects are most mantids' preference anyway, but they're opportunistic feeders, and they feed on themselves. They're low-impact animals. They feed on anything they can catch, so it depends on their size. I feed everything from mealworms, hornworms, springtails, fungus gnats, fruit flies, blue bottle flies, all kinds of roaches. I fed isopods, I fed the larvae from fruit fly cultures. When I had to, I feed spikes, which are the maggots that, you know, turn into the blue bottle flies, wax worms, just everything. Mantids eat everything. Whatever it can catch, they can eat. How do you reproduce the blue bottle flies? I've looked into that a few times. It's a really messy, really nasty process. And with blue bottle fly and green bottle fly pupae, it actually involves dead fish. So if you like the smell of rotting fish and you want to culture pupa outside, people do that for chicken food, you know, to get some insect protein for them. And they're about $200 for this thing called a biopod. It also produces other types of spikes and maggots. What you do, it's sort of like producing compost. You put all kinds of vegetable, animal, plant matter in there, leaves to brush to, you know, food scraps, even meat. And there's this thing called a black soldier fly that reproduces in this biopod, it's called, and you can find it on Amazon. It's about $200. They produce the spikes and the little, you know, the black soldier flies, which are a lot like blue and green bottle flies. I'm sure that if you use the biopod and simply put in fish, which is what bottle flies are attracted to, or even blowflies, is fish. So if you were to throw fish in there, you would attract blue bottle or green bottle flies or blowflies. The black soldier flies too, which what the biopod was meant for, can be used to create the green and blue bottle flies. And they sort of they compost and they attract flies, primarily soldier flies. It depends on what you're trying to reproduce. I've seen kits on YouTube that people have sort of thrown together, sort of how-to videos mostly, where they use a bucket. Again, you need fish for green and blue bottle fly, and they sort of seal it off. They put an entryway so wild blue bottle fly and green bottle fly can go in. What they will do then is lay the eggs on top of the raw dead fish, and the maggots will hatch, and after about a week they will go in and remove the pupae, and then they'll put them into bran or sawdust, and the maggots will, you know, dry out because they're really gooey and nasty, and then they'll pupate, and then you can use the blue bottle fly, and that's what you're getting. That's how they're farmed when you get them from anywhere else. They use raw fish, some sort of biopod-like mechanism, or there's some homemade kits you can find on YouTube. It's very interesting. I've looked into doing it a little bit, but you really want to be out in the country if you're doing this, because your neighbors are not going to like you. It's going to stink really bad. You have to handle the maggots and the fish juice or the compost type juice if you're doing black soldier flies. But you can adapt the biopod for the blue bottle fly, I'm sure, or you can make something like as seen on YouTube. But anyway, enough with that. Brianna Chandra, every time I go to Moonlight Mantis, doesn't take me directly to the website. It would have happened like that a month or two ago. If that's still happening, it shouldn't. We became an LLC, so it's www.moonlightmantidsllc.com, and that will take you straight to our website. And by now, with all the web hosting, web trafficking that I have now, it should take you there automatically. Just search Moonlight Mantids. LLC helps, but you don't really have to. It'll show up either way. Next question is, my praying mantis died when he was molting from crickets. They bit his abdomen. Yeah, that can happen a lot. You should, when you're feeding your mantids with crickets, they are going to take advantage of all their molting insects or vulnerable insects, and they're going to eat whatever they find. So often mantis will be shedding. Even other crickets will be molting or shedding, and you know, when they're white, they're soft and vulnerable, and they become easy prey for something like crickets. Even each other, they're horrible that way. So when you're feeding crickets, make sure that you're not leaving any in there overnight. So just make sure you feed only what they're going to eat. Don't leave them in there overnight, because they can be dangerous that way. Could I feed a budwing mantis mealworms? I have a lot of extra from my leopard geckos. Lexi Brown from the YouTube's comment section. Yeah, mealworms are perfect. They're a really great feeder, especially for budwings and other mantids, especially female mantids, because they're high in fat. So you want something to get really girthy and grow really fast and have some weight on it, especially something that might be laying Utheca. Mealworms are really great. On top of that, they can sit in the container for a long time and not die. So if you're going to go away for the weekend, mealworms are a really great option, really good feeder option. And Budwings, it should be perfectly fine. That's a really good comment. Mealworms are harmless, and they can sit in there a while as long as there's nothing for them, no substrate for them to get under, and that can be a really good feeder. How often do I feed my mantids? L1s starve to death really quickly, so you want to keep about 2 or 3 Malagaster type fruit flies for most species in their container if they're separated. Otherwise, keep a few more than that if there's several individuals. And you want to keep misting them a little bit every other day, and definitely keep food in there. Just a few. Don't overload them because they can get stressed out during molting. They also won't be able to eat, and they'll be too worried because they're skittish. They starve to death really quickly. L2s, 1s, 2s, and 3s. So until they're about L3 or L4, you want to feed them as much as they'll eat. Keep a small amount of fruit flies in there, but as they grow into L3s and L4s, you can feed about every 2 to 3 days. As much as they'll eat. Heidi live a bit longer than Malagasters, so when they get to the Heidi size fruit flies, those actually live a few days longer than the Malagaster do. So you can throw a few in there for whatever L3s and 4s you're feeding, or L3s mostly, somewhat L4s depending on the species. And they'll live in there a while. But you want to keep food relatively present in some cases, but feed at least every 2 to 3 days, like I do. But that's minimum. You want to feed them as often as you can. It's really fun to watch. It's the main reason people keep praying mantids. They're really fun to watch when they're feeding and stuff. So, good question, Mad Dragon 678. Do ghost mantis need misting, or do they get moisture from their food? Vic Keith from YouTube. For the main reason ghosts and any mantis needs misting is to keep up humidity. Humidity is important for when they're hatching, when they're molting, shedding, or molting and shedding. It doesn't really matter. We know what we're talking about. Anyway, that's really important especially for ghost mantids and a few other species, unless they're really arid. Arid species, you're not going to want to mist them directly. They're not really used to getting wet. So don't spray them directly. Offer water as often as you can, especially for non-arid species. Some people do primarily rely only on their insects to give their mantises moisture, but regardless, the humidity and the misting is important, or you're going to have mismalts. Okay, good question. Calvin the Great from YouTube said, do all mantids fly, or is there a nice species that doesn't? Because the way they fly creeps me out for some reason. There are the budwing mantis females that have vestigial wings, and they don't fly at all. They can't. But pretty much any species, most species, the females don't really tend to fly that often. Rarely it happens with the ones that I reproduce here, the captive ones. And as long as they're, you keep them well fed and heavy, they don't seem to fly. They more use their wings for display. Sort of a threatening pose and stuff, and I'm sure they could, but heavy captive mantis usually doesn't tend to fly. And what I find more often is that the males do fly a bit more than the females, but even the captive ones they don't do it very often, if they do it at all. And the thing that I've noticed is that the more when they first do it, they seem to kind of get it in their head to do it. And then if they've ever done it, then they're more likely to do it again and more often. So, but as long as they've never really tried to fly, they really just don't seem to want to or to care. But once they get it in their head and they do it, they seem to do it more and more. And it's more of a can be it's instinct for sure, but seems to be somewhat personality linked. So they seem once they've done it a few times, they seem to just kind of want to fly a bit more. But those are mostly the males. As long as they don't do it, then they don't make a habit of doing it. It seems. So you're pretty safe anyway with females of pretty much most species, and especially the budwing females. They have vestigial wings, so you're not gonna have a problem. That won't creep you out. But mostly it's just the males when you're talking about captive mantids. After all, we are human. I have 3 different Utheca, the more common species such as the Carolina Chinese and the European. I have them in diapause till maybe mid-March or middle of April, just so they hatch in time of late May, early June. So it's a good comment there. Reason I want to talk about it for a second is because that is a pretty good plan. If you find or you purchase some ooth, or you find some ooth, you can diapause them perfectly in the refrigerator, and you can do that for about 6 to 8 months. 6 months is safer, especially if you know if it's fresh. If it's not that fresh, you can pretty much hold on to them from the previous year till about maybe early summer, and then you want to start incubating them normally and kind of bring them out of diapause. But you can suspend them in the fridge just like you can mealworms, blue bottlefly pupae, and things like that. So if you're trying to get your garden ready and you want to release some stuff, hopefully native. You're not, don't release non-natives. The European and the Chinese are naturalized, so those are okay to release. But you can suspend them in the fridge for a few months safely. Not the freezer, the refrigerator. And that diapause, it's called, is that's okay to do sometimes. But hopefully you're trying to more release species that are native to your area, if you can. So thanks for that one. Dave Sylvia, curious on how you get the fruit flies in the mantis cages. Do you refrigerate the fly jar first to sedate them? So what I'm guessing is you're either culturing wild fruit fly somehow, or you have a fruit fly container. Maybe it's your first and you got unlucky enough to get one of the ones that have been seeded by a wild type, probably Melanogaster culture, fruit fly culture. And it happens to me about 2 or 3 times a year where basically everyone gets fruit flies in their kitchen at some point, and what happens, they get in your home because you got some old fruit somewhere, or some moisture or something attracting them, and what will happen is while you're feeding, they'll sort of dive bomb the culture while it's open, and then they'll start to spread, and what will happen is, if it's like male or female, flying is a survival gene. It makes them it's a dominant gene. So if they have the gene that helps them fly, of course the ones here are genetically engineered to not fly, but if a flying wild type got in here and started mating with the flies in here, then basically, because it's a dominant gene, in a few weeks, basically everything in this container is going to be able to fly, the whole next generation. And then what will happen, because the females that can't fly versus the males that can will be able to mate pretty much all the females in here, and vice versa. The females will be able to avoid the males that can't mount them because they can't fly. So very, very, very quickly, all the fruit flies in here, after just 1 or 2 generations, will become wild type. So what that means is, once in a while, a couple times a year, happens to me too, because it's nobody's fault, it's an accident. Sometimes when you're seeding cultures, a fruit fly can get in there. Of course, they're attracted to the media, and they just start to breed out of control. But sometimes, a few times a year, you'll open this up, and what will happen is you get 1,000 little fruit flies all over your house. You'll open it up and they'll fly out. It happens very rarely, not very often, and you can kind of tell if they're going to fly. If something like that has happened, you just tap it, and if they only seem to climb, you're pretty safe. But it happens pretty commonly. If that happened to you, yes, you can put them in the fridge if you have to feed them, but I would only do it for about a minute or so, sort of sedate them, as you said, and then you can use them for feeding. But to be honest, once in a while it does happen. I'm guessing it happened to you, is that a wild type got in there, and with the dominant gene that allows them to fly, which is, the best thing for survival for them, and they'll revert to wild type very quickly, and based on their ability to, they can move, they'll breed really quickly, and they'll take over a culture. Best thing to do in that case, if you can afford it, is to not sedate them and try to use them, is to get rid of them. Stick the whole container in the freezer, and they'll die within about 2 or 3 minutes. They'll be completely dead, they won't come back, and then you can throw away the culture, and hopefully any fruit flies that remain in your house, if you were unlucky enough to have a contaminated culture, and now your house is full of fruit flies. It'll only take a few days. Just remove any moisture you have, any fruit that's sitting out. Make sure your garbage is constantly getting taken out, and they should die within a couple days. It's not that they're going to affect your house or be everywhere. They're a little annoying. They die right away. You get rid of them very quickly. Just try not seeding cultures when you know you have fruit flies in your kitchen flying around, and try not to feed around areas that you've seen little actual fruit flies flying around. They didn't come from your culture. They more than likely they came from outside. You know, you're walking in and out of your house in the spring, the summer, and the fall, and of course they, you know, they like fruit, and you know, people keep fruit out and things like that, and it just attracts them. So you know, it seems like you were unlucky enough to have that happen to you. It's not fun. I've opened them before and just like right in my face, have them swarm all over. It's really horrible. It's disgusting. And you just throw that out and just deal with it quickly, and they die right away. It's not really a big deal, but they have been known to like dive bomb into the media while you're setting some cultures up and stuff. It happens. It's nobody's fault. I think that's it for questions. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, and of course I'm always rambling, so these videos last a little while. I have quite a few more Q&As to do. This is just seems to be just the first one. Anyway, expect a lot more videos, and I hope you like the new camera. Hopefully it's looking good. Go ahead and subscribe, please. That helps a lot. And if you guys have any questions about mantids or anything, you know, insect type related, you can go ahead and you know, leave your comments in any of the videos on YouTube. I'll see them right away, and then I'll be able to write them down if they're interesting or worth, you know, bringing up. And we'll do more Q&As in the future. If you have any other video ideas, you can request them on the YouTube page as well. Also, remember that I can help with you know, mantis identification and sexing a little bit if you need help. Also, still, we're doing the art contest, so make sure that you're sending your art in. The information is on the website, www.moonlightmantidsllc.com. Thanks for watching. Bye. I almost forgot, I brought something out kind of cool, something cool to show you guys like I always do. I kind of try to add something at the end there. So I have these musk turtles that I got at a show recently. I have 3 different kinds I want to show you really quick. Just, I think they're cool. Hold on. And they've been sitting there while I'm recording my videos, being very good. This is a 3-stripe musk turtle. This is a razorback musk turtle. Very cute. I like these. What I've been doing is throwing in Hydei or different feeder insects right now to help their growth, and they're really cool. And this is a common musk turtle. Nice. Look at that. Just 3 types of musks here. I thought they were cool. I try to keep a few reptiles too because I have a lot of insects, and quite often I use a lot of the insects that are weak or damaged, and they're pretty good feeders. So it helps to have a few you know, insect-eating type animals around. You know, some people like lizards and turtles and frogs and stuff like that. So if you're gonna have a lot of bugs, it helps to have a lot of reptiles too. There they are, 3 different kinds of musk turtles, mud turtles. I just thought they were pretty cool. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.